It was in Texas. Everyone was talking about the Moore method, and a lot of the speakers had very specific ideas about what that meant and what it should be. And I got inspired by a lot of that, and I hadn't taught using inquiry-based learning so much before, so I went there and I got all on board with more. And I went and taught a course and came back in 2011 and got a whole bunch of new ideas about what I could add to my course. And what did I do? I added more and more to my course. There were great ideas about portfolios and having students type things up and having students give presentations in a certain way. And I think the students and I almost all died the next semester when I kept adding more to my course and didn't take anything out. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about how I've managed some of that and thought about how to build my syllabus and my assessment on my syllabus based on my course objectives and things. So just so that we all know what I mean by my courses and what goes on, I thought we'd start by just giving you an overview of the structure of what happens on a daily basis in my class, so that then when I talk about the assessments, you know what I'm talking about. When you're not like, well, is it this kind of presentation or that kind of presentation that the students are making? So I do the somewhat standard thing of using a set of course notes that I think of as a skeleton of a book. So it has definitions, statements of theorems, some conjectures, some questions that will lead to conjectures, but it doesn't actually include any of the proofs. And the courses that I'm talking about when I do this are my upper level proofs-based courses. So primarily my real analysis and abstract algebra, and these students have taken a semester of intro to proof courses, and for many of them this is their first course after that, although for some of them they've had a bunch others. And these courses are required for all of our math majors, so they're all taking it regardless of whether they're in teacher training or planning to go to grad school or whatever else they might want to do after graduation. So we have our course notes, and the vast majority of class time is spent on student presentations. And these presentations are essentially them lecturing. So I find it very interesting when we talk about the difference between one of these inquiry-based courses and a lecture course, because I would say my course is a lecture course, but my students are doing the lecturing, and I am helping lead them through and getting them over the tough points. I'm more the cheerleader in the back of the room as they're up at, I guess we don't usually use the podium, but some of them actually like to hide behind the podium as they're giving their presentations. So the students are presenting proofs that come from our course notes. So that's mostly what I mean by a presentation. I will present definitions and examples, but I wait until I'm asked. One of the things that I find our students at Salem State have, as opposed to some of the liberal arts colleges I've taught at, is that they don't stand up for themselves. They're the opposite of entitled students. So one of the skills I'm trying to teach them is to actually ask for when they need clarification for definitions and examples. But I will happily do that, but it maybe happens 20 minutes a month. It's not something that I'm up there spending a lot of time with them in front of the class explaining, maybe more in my office. If we get through what I've assigned for them to present that day, we might take class time to work on proofs, especially if they all got stuck and they didn't have things to present, so I'll have them work in groups. But again, that's maybe 10% of the time. So really the vast majority of time in class is the students up front lecturing like I'm doing to you now, although when they lecture they probably don't have a Beamer presentation and that sort of thing. I make sure we're in a room that has boards on all sides so that the students get up and they usually write their proofs on the board ahead of time. And then come up one at a time to present their proofs, so that they don't have to do the frightening thing of writing as they're talking, because they freak out if I make them do that. So to facilitate this, I have them sign up using a Google Doc, that there is also one posted on my door, so they can do it the old-fashioned way if they don't want to get on Google. So this is an example. You can see that I have sort of separated out, if there are two parts, if it's an if and only if proof, they can sign up for the pieces separately. And then that's about it. So they sign up with an X, they put a star if they're really excited and want to present that one. And then I go through after and fill in the zeros for the ones who haven't presented. Some of these students have dropped the course and I just hadn't erased them, so don't get too freaked out that there are all those zeros. They just weren't in the class anymore at this point. So that's basically how I run the course. And when I decided I wanted to sort of remake this course, or at least remake how I'm assessing the course and what they're doing, I didn't want to change those aspects of it. I didn't want to start from scratch. I'm not capable of that. I would just, again, go back to dying if with more all added in there if I did. So I decided that I should do what I really should do whenever I build a syllabus, which is start with the course objectives. And too often I don't, and I just don't have time, and I run back to my old syllabus and do that. So I really wanted to make sure I was starting with the course objectives. And of course, in any of these, there's the content of the course. Because they're upper division courses, I want to emphasize their oral communication skills, their written communication skills. And those are the main things. I mean, obviously they're each big, right? They can be broken down into little sub-pieces. So not only does a grading scheme reflect our course objectives, but we also use it to make the course run smoothly and give them incentives to actually do things that maybe aren't directly shown up in the course objectives. So I might not say that I want them to have good learning habits, but I do, and I know they won't meet the other course objectives if they don't do certain things in the course. So if they don't read through the course notes with examples at their hand and with their piece of paper and working through them when they come across a theorem, they probably won't know how to prove it if they don't try and make sure how it works through with specific examples first. So I want to encourage that. I want to make sure that they're working steadily throughout the semester so that I don't have a student who gets all eager the first week and does a million presentations and can coast the rest of the semester and not do anything at the end. So I want to make sure that they're, that if they go off track, they can go off track for a week if they get sick, but if they take 4 weeks off in the middle of the semester, something bad will happen in the syllabus. Otherwise, some of them will decide to take a month-long vacation, whether it's a conscious decision or not. So all sorts of good learning habits that I need to put as incentives in my syllabus. And then I also want to make sure that they're actually coming to class and participating, not just showing up for the exams to show what they know there. Finally, I want to go through and make sure that I cover sufficient material. I usually don't care so much about covering too much. Most of my goals were about communication, but they do need to know at least what a group is at the end of a group theory course. And the reason I came and started thinking about this, I need to make sure that the workload is reasonable for them because I am sometimes a little unrealistic in what I expect of my students. And I'm unrealistic at the beginning of the semester of what the workload on me is going to be if I assign portfolios and I've got 30 of them to grade and I told them I'd get them back in 2 days. That's just not realistic. What happens if a student gets sick for a week? I also want to make sure that since this is so uncomfortable for some of the students, that if they don't buy into it and if they come every day and they participate the way they would in a lecture course and they show on exams that they've learned the material, I want to make sure they can at least pass the course so that I don't have students saying, well, if I had taken it with Professor X, I would have passed, and man, do not take it with Crow. She's horrible, you will fail taking it with her. They won't be able to get an A if they do that, but I want them to be able to pass the course at least. And then being a mathematician, what about the extreme cases? What if a student never comes up? What if one student is brilliant and goes through and does everything? What happens to the other student? So I always want to check these sorts of things with my syllabus, with the extreme cases. So if nobody does any work or makes any progress, what if they're all superstars and then I've got 2 average students? If I'm somehow comparing them against each other, even though they would have been B students over time, if they're significantly worse than these students, I want to make sure things work out. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of different cases, class sizes. So what I do is I try to give them different ways of exhibiting that they know the material. So for oral communication, I'll decide that that's going to be worth 15 points. And the way I grade that is I give them their 3 best presentations. So each presentation is worth 5 points. They have a rubric for that, so they know how to earn their 5 points, but they have incentive to do better. So if they get up and they completely screw one up, they can try again. They can do it again, and I'm only going to count their best presentation. And it doesn't have to be the same proof. Like they could, 2.1, they could totally screw up and never get, but then, man, they ace theorem 3.2. So whatever the best one is. So I divide the course into trimesters, so it's the best one in the first third of the class, best one in the middle of the class, best one at the end. In terms of the course content, if you look, this whole thing is going to be out of 100 points, so you can think of them as percentage points. This is where I do this flexibility. It's worth 50 points, so that's half their grade. They can earn it. Each presentation is worth 5 points, so if they do 10 perfect presentations over the course of the semester, actually I guess 13 because they have their 3 best ones and then their other ones beyond that, they've exhibited to me that they know the course content. I think there was a discussion in one of the earlier talks about, well, students can ace an exam and know nothing, and you'll have other students that are in your office who clearly know stuff and then they bomb exams. So this is for those students, the ones who can get up there and show the students that they know the material, show me that they know the material, but maybe they don't do as well on exams. And then other students can just take exams. I've got 2 midterms and a final, just like I normally would. And they can earn all of their points there. And the reality is most of them do it in a hybrid way. Some points from their exams, some points from presentations. But this cuts down on the work in that students don't have to do all of it. They don't have to be on top of all of these presentations all the time. They don't have to, if they do, then they get rewarded. They don't have to take a final exam. I don't have to then grade that final exam or maybe the other last exam. So it cuts down on the work for all of us while still holding them accountable for the course content. And then for written communication, I have decided to go with a proof portfolio. I am definitely open to other ideas. But for this, I tell them I want the 70 best proofs. And if a course goes too slow and if those students only end up proving 50 proofs over the course of the semester, then they are not going to do well. So it's student-paced, it goes at their pace, however they do it. If they end up proving 150 theorems, then they get to choose which ones go into their portfolio. And they is them as a group. Ideally, they've seen all of these presented in class, so they're not all necessarily coming up with the proofs on their own for the first time. And then to cut down on my work, they have to turn it in once a month. I'm not grading these things just once at the end of the semester, but it also means they can revise their work and redo it. And a new thing I'm going to add, which apparently got cut off, is that I don't want to grade more than 25 new proofs each time. I had some students turning in like 1 proof one month, 1 proof the next month, and then 70 proofs the following month, and that didn't work. So I'm playing with ideas for how to make incentives so that they steadily work on things and keeps my life sane and it keeps their life sane. So then for the incentives, Participation is 5 points. It is not just attendance, it's also critiquing other proofs. I will let some go. If there's a wrong proof up there, I will not always point it out. And then they're held responsible for that. And that only has to happen once at the beginning of the semester for them to really figure it out. I won't let them all go. I mean, there are certain ones that have very subtle points that I want to make sure that we understand. I also had a student last semester who was an amazing speaker. He could convince anyone of anything. He could sell all of us lottery tickets today. So he could convince all of those students any proof was true, and they were all wrong. So this is a little bit fuzzy. It's the only one I don't have like a rubric for. I give them to make sure that they always have examples at hand. They have exercises that they have to work through with specific examples. And then I showed you that they had to sign up for presentations that's actually graded. And I tell them how many they're allowed to miss because they like specific things. So this is all of that on one screen. And what I thought we would do, since it's the end of the day and I've talked long enough, is I guess first I'll ask if there are any questions on this, but then I was thinking we could break into small groups and you guys could think about, for a course of your own, maybe for 5 minutes. Do we have 5 minutes? Or? We have 3 minutes till the end of this? Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to use the question time for that. So I thought that you guys could talk about other ways of breaking this down and having a grading scheme that really lends itself to student strengths so that if they're good at presenting, they get up there and they can show that versus other ways. Because I would love to hear some other ideas that might cut down on our work, cut down on their work, but still have them learn just as much and assess just as much. So if you guys could maybe take 4 minutes to get into groups, groups of 3 or something and discuss that. Okay, it sounds like there have been some great discussions. Did anybody want to share any either problems they saw with this kind of grading scheme or great ideas they had to do this sort of thing, to implement this? And your name and affiliation.
My name is Diego Ramirez from Lamar University, and my question was, how do you handle difficulty level? Like a proof that can take a few lines and another proof that can take 2 pages.
So first of all, I rarely have ones that take 2 pages. I would break that down into a few lemmas or something first. But to be honest, I don't. The way I take care of it, I suppose, is that when I make the assignments, I assign who's presenting what. And usually the longer ones, there will be fewer students signing up for. And if a student is consistently only signing up for the easy ones, that's fine, but those are the ones that there's going to be the most competition amongst the students, right? Like 2/3 of the students will have signed up to present that one, so they're not going to be able to present it every time. So there's this constraint of the size of the class that naturally works on that.
I'm David Pitts from the University of Nebraska. I just had a question for you. Why do you have attendance as credit when you have all these other things that they have to attend in order to get the credit?
Mostly it's so that they're not just attending. Like I tell them specifically that attendance is not good enough for that. They have to be critiquing each other's proofs and speaking up while they're doing that. Also, if you'll notice, if they don't do any presentations, that means they didn't do any theorem signups, they didn't do any of the 3 best presentations. That's down 20 points. Technically, they could get a B. The attendance then brings it down to a C, which is sort of where I wanted them to be if they were an excellent student who didn't buy into the method. Of course, they'd have to get hundreds on all the exams in order to get that C.
Oh, hi, I'm Elizabeth Thorne, I'm from UCSB, and I'm sort of responding to your assignment for us.
Awesome.
Okay. So a thing that I thought of with the portfolios is it might be helpful to use a wiki to collect that written communication, because you'll always have it in real time, and you can give them feedback that the whole class sees. I mean, it presents some new challenges too, but it's a different way of approaching it, because if they're posting on a wiki on a regular basis, then you get it immediately. This is nice.
That's definitely something I would think about, but I specifically have them, I tell them that I don't want that typed unless they can type quickly, because 70 proofs, 70 like perfect proofs over a semester that have gone through drafts is a lot for them to type up and get electronically. Will they be able to type their epsilons and deltas and all of that easily? Yeah, but again, they still have to type all of that in. For them learning, like for us, typing in LaTeX and typing up a proof doesn't take much longer than, so that's something that I might look into and think about then. One back there.
Janelle Lorenzen, Southeastern Louisiana University. I've never done a wiki before. I don't really know what that is, but would it be possible for them to just upload like a snapshot of their handwritten work and just put it on there, so that way they don't have to type it all up?
So these things all might be possible, but I'm also thinking about myself and the fact that if I'm reading 70 proofs from 30 students over the course of the semester, I'm old school, I'd rather have it in a binder so that I can go through and stuff like that. But it's definitely something to think about moving forward. And definitely an idea that others might appreciate more than old school me.